Greetings and salutations one and all, 'tis I, 480 volts, and today we are going to be talking about Mega Man 7. So you remember how the last few Mega Man games all came out on the original Nintendo despite the fact that the Super Nintendo was already up and running? And with the release of Mega Man X, which was on the Super Nintendo, it just seemed like Capcom was content to keep classic Mega Man in the past. Well, Mega Man X was the future. But finally, at some point, Capcom decided, hey, you know what? Let's make a classic Mega Man game on the Super Nintendo and actually get with the times. This was Mega Man 7. Let's take a look. Capcom began working on Mega Man 7 sometime after the release of Mega Man X. Due to bad timing, the development team was given a 3-month time limit to get the job done. But if Mega Man 2 taught us anything, it's that Capcom works well under tight constraints. Keiji Inafune has stated that the development time was, surprisingly enough, a very fun period due to the team's high motivation to get the job done. The new head illustrator, Hayato Kaji, concurred, stated that the team was very devoted to the project's completion despite having to rush its development. Designer Yasuhisa Tsuda recounted, I remember it being quite fun, like a sports team camp or something. Still, there are so many things about this title that I have regrets about, and even at the time, we all found ourselves wishing for another month or so to work on it. The game was released for the Super Nintendo in 1995 in all 3 regions. Yes, finally, the SNES. The story takes place several months after the events of Mega Man 6. 4 robot masters begin terrorizing the city and attack the prison where Dr. Wily is being held and break him out of jail. These robots were in fact created a long time ago by Dr. Wily as a backup plan. He always suspected that one day he would be brought to justice, so he created these 4 robots and sealed them away with a program that would activate if they had gone for 6 months without any input data from Wily. Mega Man sets out to stop Wily, but along the way he meets a strange robot who attacks him. It's really not that much of an attack, really. He just jumps up and down and occasionally shoots. After the robot is satisfied with Mega Man's performance, or after you let yourself get pummeled by the dude, he introduces himself as Bass, or Forte in the original Japanese. He, along with his wolf-like robot companion Treble, or Gospel in the original Japanese, were on their way to stop Wily, but after seeing how powerful Mega Man is, Bass decides there's no need for his services and goes home. Oh well, that's nice. I'm sure we'll never see him again. Mega Man sets off to defeat the 4 robot masters. Yep, there's only 4 of them this time, but you can of course do them in any order you prefer. Afterwards, Wily attacks the robot museum where many of the robot masters from previous Mega Man games are being held. Mega Man arrives to see Dr. Wily stealing one of the robots, Gutsman to be exact, and Wily leaves behind a robot to keep Mega Man busy while he makes his getaway. Afterwards, 4 more Robot Masters are added to the select screen, giving us the full 8 after all. During his travels, Mega Man encounters Bass and Treble again, who have actually been on Wily's tail after all, but apparently got owned by the Robot Master Shade Man. Mega Man tells Bass to go to the lab where Dr. Wily will be happy to repair him. Bass thanks Mega Man and leaves. Oh, well, that's nice. I'm sure nothing bad will happen from that. After all 8 Robot Masters have been defeated, Mega Man returns to find the lab completely trashed. Dr. Light tells him that as soon as he finished repairs on Bass and Treble, they went berserk, trashed the lab, and stole a pair of robotic enhancements that Dr. Light had been working on for Mega Man and Rush. Mega Man is in disbelief. It can't be. How could the guy we've just met and know absolutely nothing about but led into the lab because we're dumber than a box of rocks turn out to be bad? Dr. Wily then sends Mega Man a message informing him that he created Bass and Treble with the intentions of gaining access to Dr. Light's lab, and Mega Man, of course, fell right for it. Mega Man, I love you, bro, but you're stupid. Mega Man treks through Dr. Wily's castle and battles through the many robots including Gutsman, whom Dr. Wily has given a nice bit of modifying and upgrading. Mega Man also battles Bass, who is determined to destroy Mega Man. Eventually, Mega Man refights all 8 Robot Masters and ultimately defeats Dr. Wily. As expected, Wily begs for mercy, but after 2 games of falling for that trick and 4 games of watching Wily get away under his nose, Mega Man clearly ain't having none of that, and charges up his Mega Buster to blow Wily's brains out. Dr. Wily reminds him that he is a robot and thus cannot hurt humans. In the original Japanese version, Wily's words cause Mega Man to remember that this is not Mega Man X, and he is still bound by the laws of robotics, but in the American version, well, this happens. Either way, the castle crumbles around them, distracting Mega Man, albeit only for a moment, but long enough for Treble to drop in and rescue Dr. Wily and escape. Bass then tells Mega Man that he who hesitates has already lost and vows to return. Mega Man then escapes as the castle self-destructs around him and returns home, ending the game. The story is actually pretty complex for a classic Mega Man game. I do like how the game tells you from the beginning that Wily is the bad guy instead of cheaply trying to hide it as if Wily isn't going to be the bad guy of every single classic Mega Man game. I also like the inclusion of Bass and Treble. Also, this is the first time we've seen Roll since Mega Man 4. Good story. Now for all that other stuff.
Alright, so anytime a company moves their franchise to the next new console, new doors and pathways are opened up. The team is free to try and execute creative new ideas, and even though this was technically not the first Mega Man game to be released on the SNES, it was the first classic Mega Man game on the SNES, and Capcom was able to introduce some new elements into the game, include some ideas from Mega Man X, all the while preserving the basic fundamentals of previous classic titles. So I'll say it again, if you've played a Mega Man game before, you know what to expect. Like Mega Man X, this game begins with an intro stage. This is mainly for story purposes. It establishes the fact that Dr. Light is working on new enhancements for Mega Man and Rush, shows Dr. Wily's jailbreak, and introduces us to Bass and Treble. The game then takes us to our select screen where we can knock out the first 4 Robot Masters. Then we're taken to a mid-stage, which is something totally new, after which we can take out the remaining 4 Robot Masters. As always, each Robot Master gives Mega Man a new weapon to which certain other Robot Masters are weak. However, because the last 4 Robot Masters aren't available until you finish the mid-stage, the weakness order is actually made up of 2 smaller circles that overlap each other. In other words, the first circle is between the first 4 Robot Masters, Burstman, Cloudman, Junkman, and Freezeman, and then back to Burstman. Then the second circle is made up of Slashman, Springman, Shademan, and Turboman, then back to Slashman. And then they overlap in that Freezeman's weapon is also a weakness to Slashman. Like Mega Man X, many of the Robot Masters perform an ouch, that hurts recoil animation after they've been hit with their respective weaknesses, resetting their attack patterns back to the beginning. This makes some bosses like Slashman and Burstman kind of long and drawn out, while others like Springman, Junkman, and Cloudman become babyishly easy. The only ones who are unfazed by this are Freezeman, who doesn't reset his insane attack pattern, and Shademan, who doesn't even recoil when you hit him with his weakness. For controls, Mega Man operates as you would expect. He can run, jump, slide, shoot pellets from his Mega Buster, and charge up his shot to fire a large energy blast. He seems to move a lot slower in this game along with everything else, but this feels like it was done to complement the game's rather large sprite models and doesn't really feel awkward. Just remember though, this is not Mega Man X you're playing, so don't try to wall jump. Something that returns in this game that was introduced in Mega Man X, but I completely forgot to talk about it because I'm an idiot, was the fact that you no longer have to go into the pause menu to change your weapons. On the Super Nintendo controller, all you gotta do is press the L and R buttons and you'll cycle through the different weapons you have. This is pretty nice. There is also quite a bit more to do in these stages than simply beat the boss. First, let's talk about Rush. The standard Rush Coil and Rush Jet return as they have in previous titles. The Rush Coil is available from the start and works just like it did in Mega Man 3 and 4. The Rush Jet works just like it did in Mega Man 4 and 5, but instead of it being handed to you after you beat a certain Robot Master, you actually have to go out and find it and physically pick it up in Junkman stage. You'll need Cloudman's weapon to even reach the area where it sits. A new Rush item, Rush Search, can be found in Freezeman stage. Use it to call Rush at any point in the stage and he will sniff the area he's sitting on. Usually he'll start digging, but sometimes he'll yawn and go to sleep. When he does dig, he may find a life, ammo, or health pack, or he may find a piece of trash you can't even pick up. He uses up weapon ammo like everything else. Not entirely useful, however, there are some very specific locations in certain stages where he can dig up key items, like the exit capsule, which allows you to exit a stage you've already completed, and the energy balancer, which works just like it did in Mega Man 6. Also, in each of the first 4 Robot Master stages, you can find a letter plate. There is an R, a U, an S, and an H plate, spelling out Rush. These plates are not necessarily in plain sight, and you'll have to look in some harder to reach areas to find them. The only one that requires a special weapon to reach is Junkman stage, where you'll need Freezeman's weapon to even reach the area. Collecting all of these gives you the Super Adapter, Dr. Light's new enhancement, which is essentially a combination of the Jet and Power adapters from Mega Man 6. Basically, Rush fuses with Mega Man and gives him a supercharged Power Punch, which travels about a foot in front of Mega Man, and also gives Mega Man a hover ability, which actually works more like a double jump. Note that while wearing the adapter, you cannot slide, but you can still shoot normal pellets. This adapter does not require any weapon ammo to work and is extremely useful. You can find an upgrade in Turboman stage using the Rush Search, which causes the supercharged punch to home in on any enemy on screen, no matter how far away they are. In short, the Super Adapter is awesome and you need to get it. Now, if you're not real big into exploration and don't feel like looking for these items, you don't have to. In fact, you can buy most of them. You might notice that along with the occasional health packs, ammo packs, and extra lives, enemies may also occasionally drop bolts, big or small. You can hold up to 999 bolts in this game. Pressing the select button while on the stage select screen takes you to Big Eddie's, a shop run by our old flip-top pal, Eddie, where Otto, a newcomer to the series, will make items for you from the bolts you've collected. At first he only makes extra lives, energy tanks, which for some reason you can now only hold up to 4 of. Really, Mega Man? What, did jumping in the 16-bit shrink your pockets or something? Jeez. The new weapon tanks, which would fill all of your special weapon ammo and which you can also only hold up to 4 of. The beat whistle, which I'll talk about later, and the exit capsule, and he requires a lot of bolts to make them. He tells Mega Man that he is missing a key component, his hyperbolt, and thus is not working at peak efficiency. You can find the Hyperbolt and Springman stage and return it to Otto the next time you go to the shop. Otto will then be able to make items for less bolts, and will also be able to make more items like the Energy Balancer, the Rust Search, the Jet, the upgrade for the Super Adapter, and the S-Tank, which works just like the M-Tank in Mega Man 5, in that it refills your health and ammo, and of which you can only hold one. Beat the Bird returns, but instead of attacking enemies, he will come to your rescue if you fall into a pit. You'll need a Beat Whistle for this to work, and you can buy up to 4 of these at the shop. However, at first Otto informs you that he has not even seen Beat for some time now and urges you to keep an eye out for him. You can find him caged up in a secret area of Slash Man stage with Turbo Man's weapon. I really like that you have the option to buy these items or just look for them yourself. I personally prefer to look for them, as I think the exploration is handled quite nicely in this game, but just that you have the choice is pretty cool. The last new item to collect cannot be bought in the shop. In secret areas of the stages of Cloudman, Turboman, and Shademan, you can encounter Protoman. In Cloudman and Turboman stages, he merely gives you hints about the game. However, in Shademan stage, he challenges you to a duel to see who is the superior model. This isn't like the fights in Mega Man 3 where he jumps around a lot and shoots. This guy has 3 patterns. The first where he fires 3 pellets at you, which are harder to dodge than you might think. The second where he jumps and shoots 3 times, but on the third time he jumps higher and fires a full spread of pellets. And the third, which is most commonly used, where he stands and charges up his Proto Buster, just like your Mega Buster, and fires a fully charged shot at you. This is easy to dodge. However, for the first time, that shield he carries around actually has a use. If Proto Man isn't shooting you, any shots you fire at him will bounce off the Proto Shield. This makes the supercharged Proto Shot bits feel almost like a Western duel where you stand facing each other and then shoot at just the right time. In this case, you'll both be charging your busters up, and if you fire at just the right time, it hits him while his shield is down, and you can still jump over his shot. Also, he will often dash across the screen towards you, not unlike Mega Man X. Add this to his invisible but seemingly very large health bar, plus the fact that he can actually kill you, and you have yourself a pretty challenging fight. If you prevail, Proto Man acknowledges your superiority and gives you his Proto Shield. Equipping this protects you from most attacks while you're standing still. I don't consider it to be all that useful, but I always make a point to get it, both for the sake of completion and for the fact that I really like the Proto Duel. Note that you must encounter Proto Man in both Cloudman and Turbo Man stages before you can even face him in Shademan stage. The final area works just like it did in Mega Man X. At the end of each stage, you will be brought back to the stage select screen where you can visit the shop, re-enter a Robot Master stage, even quit the game and reload from a password, and continue the Wily Castle right where you left off with all of your weapon ammo refilled, making the Energy Balancer somewhat useless. In the middle of the first Wily stage, you'll have a duel with Bass, who is a lot harder than he was in the intro stage. You'll fight him again towards the end of the second Wily stage, only this time he, having stolen the Rush enhancements, fuses with Treble to make his own Super Adapter. I love these fights. The final Wily stage consists of the usual teleport room where you refight all of the Robot Masters, and the final fights with Dr. Wily. I don't think the final phase of Dr. Wily is as hard as everyone says it is. It is challenging, sure, but the game basically gives you access to everything you need to win. The most effective weapon to use is Springman's weapon, which can be charged up for better damage, and you can stock up on E-Tanks, W-Tanks, and an S-Tank before even entering this stage, so yeah. The graphics are quite good. Everything is bright and colorful, and the sprites of Mega Man and everyone else have much more detail than the good old NES days. As mentioned before, the sprites and areas seem to be quite a bit larger than before. I believe this to be the reason why Mega Man moves slower. It prevents the screen from scrolling too fast and potentially give players motion sickness. The only thing I don't like about the graphics is Dr. Wily's design. I mean, I get that's how he was always intended to look, but he just doesn't look as evil and soulless as he did in the NES days. Also, the explosions are not nearly as realistic looking as they appeared in Mega Man X, but I feel this was deliberately done to preserve the more cartoony aesthetic of the NES games. The music was composed by 10 different people, including Ippo Yamada. I don't know who everyone else was because, well, I can't find any information about it on the internet. Anyway, the music is quite good. It's definitely not as driving or hard rock as Mega Man X, but it still sounds quite Mega Man-y. I love tracks like Freeze Man, Turbo Man, the intro stage, the staff roll, and I absolutely adore the Wily stage themes, and the final boss theme is one of my favorite final boss themes of all time in video game history. I think it perfectly captures that frantic feeling of urgency I've come to appreciate in final bosses, almost as if the game is saying, hurry up and kill this guy before he kills us all! And the first 2 Wily stage themes are, in my opinion, some of the best Wily themes that the series has to offer. And I know everybody worships the Wily theme from Mega Man 2, but I like these better. I also like how the mid-stage music is just a medley of Gutsman, Heatman, and Snake Man. Also, if you hold down the B button on the SNES controller while entering Shademan stage, the music that plays is from the old Ghost and Goblin games, which I have never before played, but it's cool that they bothered to include something like that. I love this game. Classic Mega Man sure took his time to jump into 16-bit, but the wait was well worth it. This game's story is well written and executed, the controls are nice, the graphics are good, the music is great, and the game introduces enough new elements while still preserving the basic fundamentals of a Mega Man game. I think the team did a good job at creating a healthy blend between the classic standard standards, and Mega Man X. This is one of my all-time favorite games of the Mega Man franchise and definitely my favorite of the classic series.
Well, that was Mega Man 7. Thank you for joining me in the review. I love the game so much. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the usual stuff that I tell you to do. Stay healthy, and I will see you all in my next video. Pieces. Oh, and since I know you're all just dying to see this,